building 7- and 8-figure agencies without franchise fees.
Welcome to the Modern Insurance Agent Podcast.
We're your hosts, David and Al Denning.
What happens when a millennial couple dives headfirst into the insurance world, scales $1 million remote business, and decides to share the journey with the world?
You get the Modern Insurance Agent.
Here, we reveal the messy, magical, and sometimes hilarious realities of building a business and a life you love.
From traveling the globe to building remote teams. Yes, even working remotely on top of a mountain in the Philippines. We're sharing insights, strategies, and plenty of laughs to help agents and entrepreneurs succeed.
Because let's face it, success isn't just about hitting numbers.
It's about designing a life that works for you.
So let's dive in and build something extraordinary together.
Welcome back to the Modern Insurance Agent Podcast. Today's episode is for anyone that's ever questioned the traditional insurance agency path and wondered if there's a better way to build real ownership. Spoiler alert, there is. So, but before we dive in today, as always, we've got all the goodies put together for you. We got all the show notes as well as how to connect with our amazing guest. If you go to jumpstartgonow.com/podcast, make sure to grab it. We already put it together for you. Today, I am joined by the legendary Peter Poggi. Did I say that right?
Poggi.
Poggi. I was close. Founder of John Galt Insurance. Peter's story includes early business lessons, major mistakes inside the franchise model, which we'll talk about, and scaling a personal lines agency from $3 million to $150 million in premium. And not just that, but in 7 years. Today, we're going to break down what actually creates long-term success in insurance. So let's dive on in. Welcome to the show, Peter.
Thank you, David. Thanks for having me. Appreciate that I can take the time with you.
Absolutely. I mean, from 3 million to 150 million, and you know why that's obviously incredibly impressive even by itself, but the time period of which you did that is just mind blowing. And I know we'll definitely jump into that portion, but let's roll back a little bit earlier. I find that's always a good place to start. Tell me where you're born. We can maybe skip a little further down the line there, but tell me, what was it like growing up in a family business environment, and what did that look like?
Yeah, I was fortunate and unfortunate, right? To grow up, to learn the family business. It truly was a family business. My father started, it was actually the hair business of all things in the Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin. Yeah, I needed some more help along the way. But he started with one location, and over time, my mother joined, and then I joined, and we ended up growing to 50 locations in Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin. So why I said that it was an advantage, you really learn, everything from start to finish on a business, but some of the lessons you learn that you wouldn't normally learn by going the corporate route, like half days mean 12 hours because there's 24 hours in a day. My dad always loved that. There's no such thing as an 8-hour day. Days off are not really realistic, but more you learn how to get things done and how to not quit and how to stay determined, because there's so many failures that come with business. You have to be strong enough to get through. And that's really applied to the insurance business for all the many mistakes that I've made over the years. You just have to be able to keep going and learn how to work through them, and obviously learn through your mistakes. But it's hard work, it's grit, it's the right mindset, which even applies to my business today. You got to have that right mindset of success and how to build.
And we'll definitely talk about strategic referral partner relationships, and definitely be an area we'll dive into today. But mentioning all those different salons, and just even knowing from some clients of ours and stuff on the PNC side, is salons have actually been heavy referral partners for sending stuff over. Have you guys leveraged, take advantage of some of those relationships, salons, especially with your intimate background knowledge of them?
We have not. We're strictly the real estate driven, so we really haven't. We're more B2B still to this day. Which again we'll dive in later. So we really haven't, but it's interesting that you have, and I would like to learn more about that actually myself.
We'll definitely talk about that. But I mean, there's so many incredible referral partner opportunities, and just people, where do they spend time, who they trust, and especially on the real estate side and with businesses on that side, that makes a ton of sense too. And with that, those lessons definitely shaped your view, I'm sure, of work and ownership
Yes.
as you were growing up and seeing that. And what was your kind of involvement with those family businesses?
When I have to say, my first summer back from college, when I didn't know anything, I thought since it was my summer break, I thought I was all set. I get to put my feet up and take a nap and enjoy my summer. And that lasted about 2 days. My dad came knocking on the door. Hey, Einstein, get your butt out here and get to work. Right, it's time to real work. So basically, started in the warehouse, learning stocking shelves. I've swept hair. I've done everything from that. But what it grew into is I grew into managing locations. My parents said, you want to be really smart? We're going to give you one of our worst salons. I want you to go turn it around. If you could do anything with that, you're hired. So I got in the car, I drove my 3 hours, stayed in the hotel, and rehired and got it going, and just basically learned that way, the hard way, just how to turn a business around. And that really helped me. So I learned that lesson, which was great. And then I grew up as I developed that, became a regional manager, and then vice president of the company, all overnight. No, that was about 7 years long, but about 7 years. And then just when I got really good and it was time to go to my next move, my parents decided to sell the chain. So I was out of a job. So they took the money, and I had to find something to do. So I landed on insurance.
They sell all 50 locations in one go. Oh man, that's quite the exit. And I know why maybe didn't make for the most relaxing summers. That level of experience and getting to come turn a business around and being able, I mean, that's incredible. I mean, I don't know if back in college I would have valued that as much as now. Correct. I think back of like, man, that's such an incredible experience to be able to do that. Now I'm just thinking back to like interning back then of what that looked like, right. But much less turning an entire business around is really, really incredible.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Very valuable too.
And from that, so that sounds like a bit of that, the transition as the business was sold, because I always generally ask, most kids aren't, growing up dreaming of, I want to be an astronaut, a professional ball player or run an insurance organization and agency. So I'm always like, unless they had family in it, like, how did you end up getting into insurance in the first place? Yeah.
That is a great question. And I agree with you. I mean, even in school, they don't teach it enough. No one wakes up dreaming to be an insurance agent. Mm-mm. I call it the best kept secret in the entire business world with residual income, right? If I'm being honest, I didn't know any poor insurance agents, and they were always on the golf course. So here I am working 14 hours a day, figuring out this hair thing. And I have people that we knew in the business that were either golfing or doing something fun, and they were all loaded. So if I'm being honest, so I said, let me try this insurance thing. I also wanted to get away from the cold weather, so I moved to Florida. So not only did I leave and not know anybody, I decided to go start insurance in Florida where I didn't know anybody. That sounds like an excellent business sense, right?
I mean, you found out early what most people wait for retirement for is like, wait, why don't I just go live in the place that people go retire at? Like I live where people vacation. That sounds like a good solution, right?
Yeah. The downside is not knowing anyone you got to start over at. Probably didn't think that part through, but that's okay. Mm-hmm. That's how you learn as you go.
Yeah, you did have probably that history of connections and businesses and relationships up in that Chicago area for sure. But then again, you can prove like, hey, if I can go to a brand new area and build and scale there, then that can be replicated, and my team can replicate that too. So
100%.
Speaking about insurance being the best kept secret, as a little side note, we were speaking at a Big I conference up in Ohio a few years back, and one of the other speakers had interviewed university students across the country, and they had asked them different industries based on their desirability to go into those industries. And the only thing that ranked lower than insurance on that list was coal mining. And so I was like, there's a PR issue a little bit. Talk about a best kept secret. And I think it's now becoming a little bit more of a public a secret of how amazing this industry can be. But yeah, most people just like, wait, isn't that just people knocking on doors at suits and ties, or like what's going on?
They think it's Aunt Betty's insurance agency. Boring. People come in and just sitting around all day doing nothing, right? In their minds, that's what they think. It's really boring. It's totally not like that, but that was the perception.
But I love how you took like people that were at where you wanted to be and what you wanted to do. Like, okay, well, it seems like this can be a very lucrative and successful industry. Takes a lot less of 30 years of law school and $100 million to get your law degree, your medical degree, and I can go down and do it in Florida. So win all around. And props for you for going and starting off PNC in Florida, where we don't have any hurricanes and storms and anything like that down here.
What do you mean, the Wild West down here? Right?
It is the Wild West.
No fraud. No, it's perfect. Right?
Hey, those that understand it and that can win here, they'll win. While the other ones, peace out from here. Farmers insurance. but yes, as living on the West Coast side, definitely understand what the world looks like down here a little bit on the PNC.
David, I love what you said about the college students picking insurance last. It's just not something people talk about. It's true. How many people go to school, go to college, don't know what they want to do, and go to $40,000 to $50,000 in debt, and they come and have to pay that, not knowing what they want to do, when they could just go to insurance and be making that within a couple of years with no debt.
And yet, college is considered the good and safe investment versus going and starting businesses and putting that in place, right? So. That could be a whole conversation by itself.
That's for another topic, right?
That's for another time. And I think we both have very similar opinions probably on that. Also went to university like Georgia Tech. Maybe 10% of that degree do I use today in a completely obviously unrelated field, but built some great relationships there. So there, there's
absolutely
there's pros and cons to everything, right? But as far as entrepreneurship side and building a business, man, I wish I would have started back with you and had family entrepreneurship side versus very, and I'm thankful for it, of course, and very much appreciate my parents, but very traditional like lawyer and nurse professions, to where it's like, oh, I haven't seen what the world of entrepreneurship looks like. I was like, man, this is an amazing world on this side. And you learned some lessons through especially the initial jumping into the insurance industry. What did we'll talk about the kind of the mistake and everything there, but ultimately what did Allstate maybe teach you that still applies today, and maybe some good takeaways there?
I'll start with because Allstate was good to me. I was fine. I won awards in the whole thing. But to your point about Florida, what I learned about from Allstate, well, first of all, believe it or not, in Florida, brand doesn't matter as much as it does in the Midwest. So I came from the Midwest thinking, if I do an Allstate, I'm just going to go. I'm going to put up a sign, and people are going to come running in, right? Just because I got Allstate up, I can't. Here I go. You sit in your office at first. We look around. There's just nothing happening, right? So no matter what you learn, you're going to have to hustle and figure out how to get the business. Period. So I don't care if it's a Geico, an Allstate, a State Farm, whatever you're doing. There's no such thing as putting up a sign and getting and people coming running in. You have to find a way to beat the system and get the customer. So that's the first thing you learn when you start in the insurance business. Also, when you have hurricanes coming through, it makes it a little challenging to write homeowners insurance, right? So you have to find a way, at least in my market, to have multiple options. The brand is great. I still have Allstate as an option in my own company. It's just one of my choices now. Mm-hmm. So as opposed to just having one, now I have 50 or 100 to choose from. It just depends on the day, right? It depends on what's going on. So what you learn at Allstate is you really have to learn how to sell yourself more than anything else, because you have one choice. You love me, you love Allstate, and that's it. There's no getting around that. So that really teaches you how to really, really win customers over. That's what you learn from Allstate. That, and the brand doesn't mean as much if you're in a certain state. That's what I would say the takeaways from that. So I needed to find independent and find another way to do it, to have more options. That was just better for me. I know many successful Allstate agents. Again, I have nothing against them. I have Allstate as a company. For me, having the captive line just wasn't for me.
Mm-hmm. And we've worked Allstate and Farmers and State Farm and stuff on that side. And you're right. I love that a skill set it forced you to learn that I'm sure was very valuable once you were on the independent side of really branding yourself and those relationships and that aspect versus just relying on a name or a logo on that side. And I think that sounds like that was incredibly valuable as far as you made that transition. But before you made that transition, let's talk about that. Kind of talk about the $150,000 franchise mistake. What went wrong with the franchise model that you entered, and some lessons learned on that side?
So after Allstate, I woke up that day and said, I want to say yes more than I can say no, and I want to go independent. I'm in Florida. How do I get a company? How do I get a carrier? How do I get access to anything? Right? That was, especially, this is 10 years ago. There wasn't that many. That wasn't an option. So you had to figure out how to go independent. So best thing you're supposed to do is go to franchise. I mean, my company's a franchise too. We just do it differently, which that's for later. But when you're looking for a franchise, what I learned is you had to pay a $50,000 franchise fee. You had to get a storefront. You had to get a sign. You had to do everything to put their brand on the sign and on the wall and on the window, which didn't mean anything as an Allstate or State Farm. It doesn't mean anything. So you pay all of this money, but what you don't get is actual training on how to sell or build an agency. So you pay all this money before you even sell one policy. That's a pretty big lesson. And as you know, like I moved without knowing people. And so I, of course, did 2 locations because I thought I wanted to pay that twice because I don't, sometime I'm hard-headed, right? I got that from my family, right? So what I learned is you don't have to spend all that money to do this. You don't have to have a big storefront to do this. And you don't need a big sign to do this. Branding is not as important as selling yourself or finding a way to build a business. When I say branding, I mean branding of the company. Branding of yourself is more important. Mm-hmm. People have to like you. They're not necessarily loyal to the name on your wall or your window or your signage. That was my biggest lesson. It's very expensive. I also spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on the wrong marketing. I always thought flyers, signs, door hangers, paid leads over and over that close at 10%, right? Don't worry, you're only the 20th person that's calling that person right now. All of that money wasted, all that time, and the lowest closing ratio. You have to go through all that before you learn the right way to do it. So that was very, very costly for time and money. It probably cost me several $100,000 in 3 or 4 years of my time before I figured it out.
Some great lessons and takeaways though from that as well. I mean, yeah, the smile and dial, I call it the frown and drown, is rough, and costly with the lead side there too. Whether Data Lot, Next Gen, EverQuote, or mailers. But honestly, even it's unless you're really watching the metrics and the data on it, then you may think you're winning, but in fact, it's bleeding you dry month after month. I remember looking at actually an Allstate agency back in the past, and they were spending a ton on leads, and then their live transfers. Their producers, of course, liked live transfers, so they were getting their agents, their producers live transfers. Didn't realize that the non-live transfers were like $500 to $600 cost per acquisition, and the live transfers were coming out to over $1,000 cost per acquisition. I mean, they've retained them for years to break even on these things. Right. And it's like, it just is bleeding dry and just wasn't watching the metrics. Right. And so a lot easier when your metrics are referrals and stuff coming in is like, oh, it's infinite ROI. Right.
David, we call that old method FSOS, false sense of success. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like, oh, business is coming in, I'm writing stuff, but it's made it harder to spot that, oh, it's actually costing me. So, and so
I would tell people for mistake. I'm sorry if I.
No. I don't, absolutely.
If you are going to go into a franchise, which there's so many benefits, I said, I'm a franchise too. Find out what you're getting for your fee. The lesson I learned is they don't teach you it. You have to be able to be taught how to do this, or it will take you twice and maybe 5 times longer to be successful because you have to do it on your own and figure it out. You have to make sure the training is more than just, here's how you use our system and here's how you use our quoting software. How do you actually build a business? How do you actually get yourself up to produce at a high level? You have to learn that before you can do anything else. So you can be beautiful on the system. You can have the best system in the world, but if you don't have any customers, what's the point?
And that's honestly very rarely taught, right? I mean, it's we'll take your franchise fee. Here's a name, logo, or brand, or in some cases, even on, here's some carrier access and good luck. Right. And it's like, well, how do I get clients? And maybe on some sides, it's like, oh, you buy a bunch of leads and call them all day. And that's our method. And that's all we got to tell you. But yeah, I mean, it's, especially if you haven't come from building or running business. Thankfully you had some experience, right. with business side, but there's so many that come in this industry, and think of a few clients that are like, I have no insurance background, no sales background. And that's got to be some of the toughest to come in of, I'm just going to start running an agency with a large investment off the bat, which is something you also mentioned. Like there's a lot of different models, but I mean, sometimes you're talking 50, 100, 150,000 just to get carrier access to get rolling with whatever that franchise or the opportunity is. And, in some of the cases, it's, hey, I don't, let me not worry about servicing and that side. And then, I'll just, cut you half of the commissions and stuff on that. And on an area that's probably good to learn and to experience, because, I don't think a home office is always going to do it as well as internally sometimes, but just depends. I mean, there's different fits for everybody. So,
Right.
it's also finding and asking the right questions. And so what do you believe traditional insurance franchising, why do you believe traditional insurance franchising is misaligned?
Um, it's misaligned because, in my opinion, you become a franchise sales company as opposed to
Mm,
an insurance agency. How many franchises can we sell as opposed to how many people can we make successful? I think that's the misalignment for me. And that misalignment comes from the training. It has to be you're successful when I'm successful, not I receive money no matter what. That's why it's misaligned. What does your brand mean? It does make a difference, but does it really? Unless you are an Allstate or a Geico or a Progressive spending billions of dollars on advertising, what does that brand mean? So what am I really paying for? So I'm misaligned. I have your money. Now you have a location that showcases me and my company, but not how are you going to pay for all this? It's a big drop in that. I've not only did I own a competitor, I also worked inside a competitor, training other agents how to do this. And that was the biggest complaint I have. I have no idea what I'm doing. If you come from outside the industry, now you have 3 strikes. You have to learn insurance. You have to learn how to quote and bind insurance. You have to learn what the stuff means. You have to learn how to sell it. And then you have to learn how to grow an agency, which is hiring, firing, growing, scaling, all of that. How do you do all that if you're already out $150,000? Now, what if you had that $150,000 you could use to invest in yourself and people? Well, if you kept that and used it on yourself and hired 3 top producers, what would that do for you? That's why it's misaligned.
Night and day, right? And you mentioned already, like, okay, customer acquisition is
Yes.
a big thing that just is not taught, or but like, how do I find clients, right? And so, both that, and then what other areas do you think most training misses when agents first start, and that really needs to be there?
No step-by-step system on even how you should structure your day or what it should look like.
Mm,
It really is, you're on your own, figure it out. If you're going to be a top producing agent, you have to have structure in the system from start to finish. From what you do the second you get in your office to the time you leave. That's not taught anywhere. They just learn how to put our stuff in, learn about us and our company, and that's all you learn. You need to learn how to, like I said, sell, scale. You also need to know how to work. This is not going to be 9 to 5, especially when you're starting out. The goal is to get that way. But most agents start that way and then figure out they have to work more later. So you're going to work more in the beginning. You have to think like an entrepreneur. No one teaches you how to think like a business owner either. You're not just an insurance agent. Now if you're going to own an agency, you have to think like a business person. There's no training like that anywhere. You can be taught that, but no one teaches that. You have to learn that as well. So, I mean, there's just so many things going against you when you start. It can be done if you have the right system and are taught properly.
And I mean, I feel like it's especially required and mission critical on the P&C side. I feel like a lot of times on maybe life or some on the health, and, kind of getting in, I sell policy. I have, I can kind of operate by myself and roll stuff a little bit until maybe I eventually, build a downline or something. But on the P&C side, I mean, you're running a business off the bat. Even if it's just you're wearing all the hats, your marketing, accounting, your service, your everything. But eventually, like, okay, I have my producers, I have my CSRs, I have my accounting or financial team, and as quick as possible, I want to get to the point of where I'm running the agency and working on the business than working in the business. But it's easier said than done in a lot of cases, especially when you have to figure it out yourself and have never run a business before. It's a big learning curve.
Yeah, and even the basics of it, no one really even teaches you about insurance or the companies that you represent either. That's a whole other thing you have to learn. That changes a lot, as you know, in Florida. So there's not a perfect science of that. That's ongoing. You just have to get good at that. But when you're starting out, no one's really teaching you how to do that or about that. But a captive agency might, because it's the one product line, right? But if you have 50 companies to choose from, who's teaching you how to do that? Someone has to be there for you to learn that. It can't everything can't just be trial and error. You have to learn how to do that. So.
And especially if you're doing commercial, who's teaching the core documents, who's guiding you through those scenarios. I mean, it's much different than just an auto or home. Like, and there's a lot that goes in. So having help, support, and that knowledge is like game changing and critical versus just figure out as I go.
And you know what else, David? I'm fortunate. I think we don't even offer any large commercial. This is all personal lines, and we're just doubling a little small. So the good news is those numbers have no commercial in them. That's the good news. But I think it's simpler. I know people do both, and I always find separating the two is easier to concentrate and scale faster. That's my opinion, but everyone does it differently.
And there's pros and cons to everything. I mean, when you separate the two, I mean, it opens up a world of referral relationships and possibilities and stuff too, because I know a ton of commercial shops that they don't touch the personal lines. And so cool, let me send all that over to our partners on that side as well. And then, you get into the under 65 health and you get into the life side, and they're definitely not touching PNC. They're like, hey, let me send that on over. Right. I need to do a key man, policy, but I need to do buy sells. I need to do all these things that people I'm working with, but they have their homes, they have their autos, they have their yachts, their toys, everything. Someone needs to insure these. And so it just opens a world of opportunities there. So definitely, hopefully those listening too, you don't have to be the master, the master of all areas and everything. In fact, that it's usually much harder and more difficult.
It could actually slow you down in some cases.
Absolutely. Be known.
However, to your point, a lot of agents come in and say, I want to sell everything to everybody. First of all, you're one person. How much can you actually do? And are you really good at one thing, or are you halfway good at 10 things?
Jack of all trades, master none, right? Like,
correct.
And it just complicates everything. Like simple scales, right? And then complex breaks and you go crazy. So, so how did that experience push you to build something different? You talked about, okay, these are some lesson learned. These are some things I've realized over that. Now I'm going independent. Like how did that really inspire you? And what did you really want to change when you took that approach on the independent side?
All right. Yeah. So as it was out helping other agents for other companies and watching people, true stories, some of them are emptying 401ks to do this insurance thing because it can be costly if you don't do it right. I mean, once you're in, right? You got to go all in. And having no one and seeing that was more cared about the franchise fee and bottom line numbers as opposed to agent success. So I said, there has to be a better way, a better mousetrap. First of all, so for me and my company, you don't have to have a huge storefront and pay $5,000 a month to put John Galt up on the sign. I don't have that big of an ego. I'd rather have you take that money and hire someone, right? Number one. Number two, I don't want your money. I don't want your $50,000 franchise fee. Wait, what? We do have a program where you could pay it to me. We've had no one take me up on giving me the money yet, right? You could give it to me. You could buy yourself ownership right away, or you can just sell your way in, which takes about a year to 18 months. Which would you rather do? Right. So I said, there's no money up front. Use that money to invest in yourself if you have it. I've had some agents with me with $5 or $6 million books that started with zero and didn't have any money. So this can be done. But if you do have the money, I wasn't going to take it. I want you to invest in yourself. Number two, you have to have training. Our goal here was going to be quality, not quantity. I'd rather have 100 agents with $10 million books than 2,000 agents running around separately. That's always been my theory. So I want less agents with more quality time where we teach you how to build an agency. Our model is our trainers and our mentors, our agent advocates, we call them, they already own agencies. They're already successful and they've already been $1 million producers. They're the ones coaching and mentoring the people that come in. So, and joke was, you don't have a person just put on a tie and bring a clipboard and just do this, point at the chart that doesn't know anything about insurance. How about, I've been in the field. I know how to do this. I will show you how to make less mistakes so you can get to where you want to go. So I had to have the initial group that I trained personally, and now my team trains other people. Let's train people how to do this successfully to get over the hump faster and grow to get to that 8-figure agency. I didn't know of a model that was doing that. It's either give me the money and hope for the best. So how about no money? I'm going to split it with you later. We're going to be partners. So it's not going to cost you anything, but I'm going to show you how to get there so that when you win, I win. I just wanted that model compared to something else.
Yeah, aligned expectations and aligned success, right? Like,
Correct.
it should be set up as a win-win model, and I love that, and that people that are supporting training and the advocates there that you mentioned to have that experience and that background is invaluable, really. What are your thoughts as far as starting from scratch or starting with a book?
Well, you can do both. People always say, I want to buy a book. Yes, you should. You can. It's always nice to have the revenue. There's nothing wrong with having a book. The thing is now people are pricing agencies 4 times,
Mm-hmm.
4 times profit, 4 times revenue. So you can't have a 9-year payback. I mean, I'm exaggerating, whatever it is now. It's a long time now. It used to be 2 times you can make that fly. 2 times. I don't see that anymore. Maybe it's possible. I don't see that much. So yes, if you can get a book, it's great. But don't forget now, you're in debt or you have to have money. So scratch is always going to be more difficult because you have to ramp up. However, with the right system and model, it doesn't cost you any money. It costs you lots of time and sweat, right? It's your book, your people. You've done it. You didn't buy anything. But yes, buy a book is fine. It's going to cost you a lot of money. Take the money, invest yourself in hire producers. I believe you can get there just as fast from scratch if you have money to invest in the team.
And to see you through that initial growth to hitting renewals and everything in there, because PNC, you gotta plan ahead. You got because it takes time to ramp up the business, and not just commissions, but the renewals starting to hit and everything to really take off there. Whereas a little bit different on a life or health side there.
But up front there, yeah.
You have to have your plan, right? Like you said, you're in it. It isn't like, oh, let me try, a PNC agency for a few months or 6 months. Like, no, you're in it. And that's a huge help to be able to have that cash flow there versus putting it all into a franchise fee. So that you can make sure that's successful during the toughest time, getting it, if you're doing it from scratch, off the ground and going.
It's not all rainbows and butterflies. However,
it would be nice. It would be nice. Yeah. And then it wouldn't probably be as lucrative as it was if it was. And so what was your core philosophy behind John Galt Insurance?
Agent friendly. Attract entrepreneurial minded people that are willing to put in the sweat and time, but more importantly, are coachable and will follow a system. If they do that, we will give everything we have to make you successful. No man or woman left behind, right? If you're willing to put in the time and follow the system, we will guarantee your success because we know that it works. And I want everyone, our philosophy is this: everyone should have at least a $10 million agency. Why? You're bulletproof, no matter what happens in the market, plenty of income, you can go on any vacation you want, but do not stop until you get to that number. That's the main number. When I've learned over, even with the Allstate years and all the agents I've spoken to, some people are in industry for 20 years and only have a $2 or $3 million book. Our goal is to do that every year, no matter what. Like minimum you should be doing is $2 million a year in new premium business, personal lines. So our philosophy is, you give me the sweat and the time. Anybody will do that. Obviously, ethics and the other stuff is a given, right? Honesty, ethical. Put in the time, follow the system. If you're going to work, we will teach you every secret we know to be successful, and we can almost guarantee it. That was always the core. Again, quality, not quantity. Become $1 million producer first. Teach 3 or 4 other people how to do it in your agency so they can all do $300,000 or $400,000 to $1 million. Build yourself a mega agency.
And, one of the big questions for today, and I'm sure those who from the beginning are like, I really want Peter to dive into this. And in fact, they may even just like, until you highlighted it, it's like, okay, this is, commercial wrapped into this as well, but obviously makes it even more impressive knowing it's just personal lines. But how did you scale from 3 million to 150 million without the commercial padding and so quickly?
Excellent question. Thank you. I would say three key factors. As soon as you're large enough, you have to make sure you split your service and sales up. You can't do them both. You will burn out, and you will never be able to scale beyond $3 million. It seems to be the number. Some is 2, some is 4, but it's $3 million. You have to split your sales and service team up. You cannot be running around doing both. You'll never scale. Number two, as soon as you learn to stop knocking on individual doors and go after the referral partners that can feed your pipeline where the deals and the business comes to you automatically, it's win for everybody. As soon as I figured out, again, it took me 3 years to figure it out. I had a friend in one of my networking groups, a B&I group. He was a mortgage broker. He was a very good one. I had his home and his auto and his umbrella and a couple of his friends. He closed 15 loans a month. I didn't write any of that business for the first 2 years, 3 years, because I didn't know to ask, right? So you learn the hard way. So as soon as you learn, and again, not just the concept, as soon as you learn to effectively make relationships with mortgage brokers, real estate agent, title companies, etc., your life changes. Would you rather knock on 1,000 doors or have 10 lenders sending you 10 loans a month, the same number, right? That close at 80 to 90% because you're coming highly recommended as a business partner, not just a transactional agent, but an actual relationship and a business partner with somebody. Where the training goes wrong, even where people tell you that you should do this, they say, yes, go befriend mortgage brokers and real estate agents. Okay, how? What do I say? What do I do? What makes a difference? Why do ours stick? I mean, 90% of our $150 million book came from the real estate mortgage broker business. We have a little bit of advantage. We are in Florida. There's a lot of homes out here. A lot of people move here. So I get that too. But it'll work anywhere. It really will. So that's step two. Step one, split up your service. Step two, you got to go business to business. And step three, you have to duplicate yourself. How much business can one person write? We say $1 million in new business with the proper system until you can't do it anymore. So then you bring on a second and a third, all producing. And you have to have a system to follow. So no self-service, B2B business, duplicate your efforts, and make sure you follow a system that will actually work. When I say a system, you have to be organized, you have to be focused, and you have to be consistent following the system to make this work.
When you said $1 million in production, and then duplication, is that the target for producers to do 83,000 a month in production for the $1 million, and as far as the target there or more?
Yes, okay. Correct. We have a company standard. Our company average, you want to be doing at least $50,000 a month as our baseline. I know some agencies as a whole do that. I know it's crazy. Some that's their whole thing. They do too.
Absolutely, yeah.
if you're not doing that as an individual producer, you're underperforming in our organization based on the way we're set up, and we see it. So your goal with us by learning what you do is, yes, you want between $80,000 and $90,000 a month, every single month for the entire year. So yes, we want you to make $1 million producers, and of course that's premium, not revenue. Otherwise, we do. You bring the commercial in to do that, right?
But still, I mean, that is a very impressive amount of personal lines only premium per producer, which is, speaks to maybe the smile and dial isn't the method, because honestly, even with that, agents in just personal lines, man, they have to kill themselves if they're going to hit those numbers in a month, if they even hit those. Because like I said, I know plenty are happy if their personal lines producers are doing 15, 20, 25, 30,000 a month in personal lines, right? And even then, it takes a lot to sift through and find that, versus coming from referral partners and having these relationships, and and that's what they dream about each day. But that's honestly where the time should be, right?
Yeah, and the closing ratio is so much higher, right?
Yeah.
What's a closing ratio on a paid lead or a mailer? I mean, 10%?
Maybe. Yeah.
Can you do 20 if you're good? We're talking 80% on a home closing. Biggest secret, I know you know this, but most people don't understand this in the insurance business, is you lead with the home, because the home goes into the mortgage. Mm-hmm. So what business can you have where people don't even write a check to pay for their insurance? The mortgage company pays for everything. You're selling stuff on a signature in a home closing, right? It goes into the escrow, usually. I mean, there's variations. And how often do people not even look at it? So the retention rate is actually higher with home. And then, of course, if you're a good agent, you're going to do the cross-sell and the auto and everything else. Down here in Florida, we get to go after the flood and the other stuff that goes with it. But leading with the home, everything else makes it easier. Going back to Allstate. At Allstate, we led with auto, right? That's actually more difficult. So you do learn how to sell auto very well. Mm-hmm. But it's more difficult leading with an auto than it is a home.
Especially when think back to Allstate, like your unique value is not price necessarily of always being the cheapest. And so if I'm leading with auto, I'm not always necessarily the cheapest, especially if they're not bundling, which is why bundling is so key there. Like 6 months, 12 months, they leaving me for $1. I don't know. Hopefully I've
Right.
got a good enough relationship, but I mean, it's, the home side definitely sticker and definitely leads into more opportunities from there. So I love that approach.
And you know why else? Down here in Florida, we don't have the bundling effect that you can in other states. We have 50 home carriers, but not all of them are going to carry an auto with them. So you almost have to learn how to sell separately and get good at it as well.
Which is a valuable skill, and not bundling just from the dollar advantage and savings advantage, but just the the business stickier once you have multiple policies in place, even if it's not they're saving. It's just I got my home with Peter, I got my auto with Peter,
Right.
and then once you throw a life insurance policy, it's like a 99% retention at that point. So so much opportunities. And so with that, we talked about a lot of initial stages and kind of what that looks like model wise, what that looks like, coming in, whether you have a background in either business or insurance or not, scratch versus books. But ultimately, the person themselves on that side, would you say really separates agents who win from those that struggle? And with that, what does ownership mentality really look like day to day?
Excellent. I get that a lot, and I teach that a lot because there's people from all
Mm-hmm.
walks of life in different industries, right? First off, you're coming from a 9-to-5 job. You have to understand this is not a 9-to-5 job. So that's the first habit you have to bring. You are building a business, so you have to train your brain for business mentality, meaning whatever it takes at whatever time, right? Number two, to be successful with this, and a top producer mindset is not quitting, which we talked about, putting in the time, number two, but also if there is a system, whether it's my system or your system or someone else's system, I don't care. If there's proven success, you follow it. But you have to follow the system consistently, no matter what. The agents that get in trouble or take twice as long or don't make it, refuse to follow the system. They go their own way thinking they know better. Well, I like an auto dialer, or I like cold calling customers by the phone. Okay, do that. Then when you're done messing around, come back and we'll show you how to do this right. Follow the system from the people who got you there. I believe you should always have a top producer is very coachable and learn from someone who did it before and as a mentor. So find a successful person in whatever system you're in and ask for help. It's okay. And number three, you have to be disciplined with your time. We're set up for speed. We're set up to produce $1 million, right? You're cranking, right? So if you're cranking, the good news is you're not doing your own service to slow you down, as we talked about, but you're cranking and you're making relationships. So you have to be focused with your time and do the almost, I don't want to say robotic, but you have to have a methodology and a system to follow that you're doing all day, every day to be successful. The people who wander off and get distracted and aren't focused sell half as much. It's just a proven fact.
I love that. And you're speaking my language on, why would you invest in something and choose and do that thing to then ignore what that process was that, is part of the reason that you decided that route in the first place, whether it's a program, whether it's a franchise, and, oh yeah, here's how we went from 3 million to 150 million. And here's the model. And here's the best practices and everything. Oh no, I'm gonna figure it out myself. I'll do, like, why, right?
Right.
All it causes is you going through all the challenges and roadblocks and stumbling and eating it financially from versus just learning from someone who has already gone through that and is now showing you how to avoid it at the end of the day. And so
Well, you tell somebody, I want you to go call and go visit 100 mortgage brokers, right? Say this is what'll happen. It's not perfect, but go mess. And then you only do 10. It's not my fault, right? Now the top producer, they'll do 200, right? They'll just go until they get it and figure it out. People also bloom at different stages. So I would say this to anybody: if you're willing to work and follow the system, if you stick with it, this is the most rewarding business you can be in. Eventually, your time will pay off with building a book of business and residual income. You just have to stick with it. Don't go willy-nilly and go on your own, but stick with the time. Even if you're having a slower start, you will become a top producer. It's one of the best, most rewarding businesses, best kept secrets that hopefully is not a secret anymore that people can join.
Absolutely. And if you put the right things in place and have the right model, I mean, you can do it very, very quickly over that and avoid those mistakes too. I mean, that's some of the best investments we've ever made is in coaching, training, masterminds, and learning these things. And it's usually $1 in is at least $10+ out. And it's like, well,
Correct.
if you found somewhere you can put $1 in a machine and it gives you $10 for every $1 out, how many dollars you put in that machine? Put everything in the machine, right? If I can get there faster and quicker. And that's one of the advantages of what you set up, of course. And you talk about referral partner relationships and you talk about something that, okay, I understand loan officers are important. I understand real estate agents are also really great relationships too. How do I approach them? How do I make this happen? Like Peter, if you're willing to share a little bit around that, I know people are sitting here listening like, okay, I get they're important. I know they're important, but how do you make that happen?
I'll give you a couple small examples. First, let me tell you what not to do. 90% of insurance agents out there are going to get a beautiful little marketing flyer. It's going to have their picture on it. And they're going to walk into a loan office and say, "Hi, my name is Pete Poggi. I'm really good at insurance. I'd love you to give me an opportunity to quote some of your customers and I'm going to earn your business. I bet I do a good job." Well, you and 99 other people have already done that. So I like to start with this question. Where do most mortgage brokers and lenders get their business from? Who refers their business usually? Where do they get it from? I would say they get their business from real estate agents.
Real estate agents,
right?
yeah.
So if I'm going to go visit a mortgage broker, I'm either going to bring my flyer or I'm going to take two of my best real estate friends and I'm going to go to the office together and I'm going to introduce them to real estate agents who could help them in their business. So when you're approaching this, never approach this. What I say is the gum on the shoe where you're the bottom of the totem pole and everything. You want to go as an equal business partner, but bring something of value that no one else brings.
Mm-hmm.
You should already be good at insurance. You should already do fast quotes. And you should already understand the home closing process. That should be your bare minimum. Nobody cares, okay? And of course, you're not going to mess up their customer. But can you help that person in their business and mean it and actually do it and try it? That's how you make permanent relationships. And that's how you approach these people. Not a perfect science, but your job is to go in and befriend somebody. Find out what they need. How do you do that? You actually go in and ask questions. What insurance agent goes into a mortgage broker and asks questions about them and their business? Zero, right? 0%. So, all right, 10%, whatever it is. So you're going to be the only insurance agent in history who's actually asked a lender or a real estate agent how to help them, but mean it and then try to do it. Once you do that, you form a mutual relationship, and by default, the business comes your way. That's a short version. Here's another little tidbit. How many insurance agents do you see at open houses on a Saturday? Zero, right? No one's going to go to an open house because why? Well, first of all, insurance agents think they have to go chase customers around the house trying to sell insurance. But who is sitting as a captive office at an open house? Real estate agents. So do you go there to sell them insurance? No, you go there to help them. By the way, if there's a line out the door, see if you can help them sign people in. Do they need water? Whatever it is, you're there to help them and make a friend and have a conversation about helping them in their business. Just another example. There'll be no other insurance agents there, and they'll be impressed that you're out working on a Saturday. Because most insurance agents are lazy and they work, I was going to say 9 to 5, but they work 10 to 4, Monday through Friday.
I mean, and who else is at the open houses? Home buyers that are literally about to go through the home buying process right there as well. So, and if you have that
a lot of people to meet there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the question we get asked. Like, how do how do I bring value to real estate agents? So like you said, ask them. So it's like, oh yeah, I got an open house. Can you help me set that up? Yeah, I'd love to come help you set up the open house and everything. And great way to bring value because normally they're setting up their own open houses and staging them.
If you're going to make a cold call, no one likes the cold call. I always say when I do that, who likes the cold call? There's always one in the class that likes the cold call, right? But most people don't. So if you had the cold call, just say it. If your business survival depended on it, are you going to call 1,000 customers or are you going to call lenders and real estate agents? You're going to call a lender, right? You're not going to say, hey, lender, I'd like to meet with you so I can see about how I can get some insurance for you. You're going to call a lender and you're going to say, hey, I have a group of realtor friends. Guess what just happened? We lost our go-to lender they dropped the ball. We're looking for a better one. Would you be interested in speaking to us about being our new lender? Think they might talk to you?
Absolutely.
It's a different approach. But again, you want to mean it and be good at relationship building. If you can do that, and you can befriend 20 mortgage brokers, imagine you're trying to befriend 20 people as opposed to 2,000 people. If 20 lenders just send you 5 home closings a month, that's 100. It's 100 a month.
Well, yeah, it's not even just 20 versus 2,000. I mean, those relationships, as long as you don't screw them up, continue to provide value, keep paying you off, right? Like, whereas if you're bringing on, individual clients, new month, go find them again, go find new ones, right? Versus I've got a relationship that continuously they're bringing in clients, they're getting referred clients, and then now those are getting referred to me as well. So, and
they know other people in the industry that they'll refer you to, and they're just you kind of grow wide. So
yeah. Especially because P&C agencies, I mean, you can operate the whole state, you can operate in multiple states, and that mortgage loan officer may just be working in that state or in that area, right? And so now I can have those relationships all over, right? So,
and I didn't go off too much on that.
No, that's perfect. Honestly, that was a question I know people are like, okay, tell me, Pete, how was some of that approach? And so, Pete, we could continue this conversation. I absolutely do look forward to, continuing that. And it's been absolutely amazing. One final question I did want to ask before, how can people, of course, get in touch and connect and with you is, what's the biggest lie agents believe about scaling their businesses, in your opinion?
Biggest lie I believe is you can do this by yourself. And you could do service along at the same time you can do sales together. That seems the biggest, like, come and get a 1 or 2 person office and do all your own stuff. That is a lie. It's impossible to scale. That's the biggest lie.
Makes so much sense. I see so many agencies where the producer's also doing the service, and it's really just like crippling them, but they're getting paid off their commissions off the sales. And so it's like, it's just also not even aligned to the producer some sides, but like separating them out to truly be able to focus on scaling makes so much sense. So thank you so much, Pete, for sharing that, for joining us today. We really, really appreciate it. For those saying, listen, I can't get enough of what Pete's talking about, I absolutely want to dive in. I want to connect. I want to learn more. Where's the best place for them to plug in?
We have a couple different websites. Do you prefer an email or a phone or a website? What do you like?
Yeah, anything you want to list here, and then we'll make sure to get them included in the show notes so people can just reach out from there.
You can do John Galt Insurance Franchising. You can poke around on the website there. You can email me directly at pete@johngaltinsurance.com. If you're a young college person not knowing what you want to do, go to myjgi.com. It talks about, you don't know what you want to do, go ahead. It's okay to leave school and join us if you want, or finish school or whatever. You can do both. Or you can even call my cell phone. I don't care. 954-663-0333. Call me directly. I'll answer any question you have.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Pete. We really, really appreciate it. Thanks for joining us, and we'll look forward to continuing the conversation.
Thank you, David. Thanks for having me on. I enjoyed it a lot today. I'm looking forward to talking to you more.
Absolutely. And thank you, everybody, for joining us on this episode of the Modern Insurance Agent Podcast. We'll catch you on the next one.